Everyone, TheGamingChief here. Today I'm going to be going over a few of the recent changes in DayZ 1.13 that server owners need to know and some of the actions you're going to need to take. And I do have our changelog open up here. This will be linked in the description as always as well. And there's a bunch of different bug fixes, stuff like that, but we're going to go down all the way to the server area down here. And they fixed a few different things, added a few different things for priority.txt, stuff like that. Kind of mystical things. You can read through that if you're interested. The main thing here is that server administrators can no longer use the game port for RCon connections. So in the past, if you're using tools like CF Tools Cloud or Battlemetrics or something like that, or Dart for your RCon, anything RCon based, you could just use the game port, which defaults 2302. You could use that and that would make a successful connection. However, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. And you're going to have to go ahead and set up an RCon port in your BattlEye config, and only that port will work from now on. They do link to a few pages, and we can briefly go over that. And they do link to the BattlEye documentation here. It's not super useful. It's normal BattlEye stuff, so we're going to go and close that. They also link to the feedback page for this change. And one of the main things I wanted to point out is one of the engineers, what they essentially said, if we scroll down here, is that they, had to do this for recent changes, and that will be communicated in the near future, which they're not giving any information about this change. From the sounds of it, I believe this is like a security-related change. Might be something with how BattlEye traffic is sent, maybe some sort of DDoS reflection or something like that. But they've officially changed it to where it's its own port, so you can't have, that single port doing all the traffic, your game traffic and your RCon traffic. They have to be separate ports now. And I did also get an email about this from CF Tools Cloud, and we're going to go ahead and go over to that page and read a bit about it. And this page gives us some additional information. It's just saying, hey, you need to specify your RCon part, which we're going to do in just a moment here. And it gives you some links and stuff like that. And then this page is basically the same thing, just telling you a bit about it. They do suggest using the game port +3. So if you're using 2302, the default game port, you're going to want to use 2305 for that, which is what we're going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to go ahead and remote into my server here. And I'm going to open up my text editor of choice, which is Atom. And I'm going to go ahead and shut this server down as well. Before I shut it down, just so we can see, I do have CF Tools Cloud open. It does show the server is offline or unreachable. This is because my server has updated to the latest version, so that means RCon connections are no longer working through 2302. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. And now that we have Atom open, I'm just going to close out of that. And we're going to go ahead and go over to servers here. We're going to go into here. Server 0 is the server we've been using. And what we're going to look for is our profiles folder. So profiles right here. And then we'll have BattlEye. We'll open that. And then you're going to either have beserver_x64.cfg, or you might have an active one. Active is just fine. So you have, your RCon password, which I'll change that later. And then restrict RCon, you'll want to keep that as 0. Without it, services like CF Tools Cloud and Battlemetrics will not be able to connect to it. And all I'm going to do on this is I'm going to go ahead and paste in this right here. So RCon port. So this is where we're going to go and specify that we are using 2305. We can go ahead and save that. And we can go ahead and close out of this now that we have that specified. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close out of Mega Manager fully as well. This totally works if you're using bash scripts as well. It doesn't have to be a Mega Manager, it's just what I'm using in this case. And the important thing about this is, just like 2302 has to be open through your router or, open to the internet, 2305 is going to have to be for that port to work and be accessible for RCon traffic. So I'm going to quickly pull up my firewall real fast. And what you can do is you can totally add a rule for 2305 and allow it. However, what I'm going to do is just check notification settings here. And then what I'm going to change here is I'm going to select this to notify me when Windows Defender blocks a new app. So what should happen is when this restarts, it should try to use 2305, and then it's going to notify me and prompt me to allow it through my Windows firewall. And I'll check these for these other ones. I currently use the domain network, so that's all that really matters. But I'm going to check these on private and public just so they're there. And we pressed OK and we're on the main screen. We can go and close out of that. And it's also important to note, just because you opened it in your Windows firewall doesn't mean that you went ahead and opened it, if you're behind a router or something like that. So this all depends on your provider, or if you're doing this on your home network or whatnot. So some providers, the port's just automatically going to be open, and in others, you'll have to contact their support or go through their panel to open it. So I'm just going to go ahead and log into my router here so I can make sure that port is open. And if we look here, we can see that I do have a couple different forwarding rules here for allowing stuff. And the main ones you'll notice is 2302 right here, 2312, and 27016. Those are the main ones you'll need for DayZ. And these are all marked as TCC UDP. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and add a new one. And then for the protocol, I'm just going to use UDP because you only need UDP for the RCon port. It doesn't use TCP. You can, if you want, use TCP and UDP, but it just needs UDP. And I'm just going to quickly go through here. Your router is going to look different than this, so this doesn't matter too much, but I'm just showing that I am opening this real fast. And I went ahead and added a quick description there, and we can go ahead and save this. Oh, and it helps if I remember to put the port there, and we'll go ahead and save again. We'll apply changes, and I'm just going to go ahead and move this with the other DayZ related ports. And then I'm going to go ahead and save that, apply again, and then I'm going to quickly go ahead and go over to my rules here. And I'm just going to lift this up one, that way it's not below the deny all, and I'll save that as well. And then other than that, this one should be ready to go ahead and go. So we're going to go ahead and close out of our firewall here. And we're going to remote back into our server. And I'm just going to go ahead and relaunch our server. And then Omega Manager does have an update, so we're going to go ahead and download that. And I am going to quickly cover this update as it is relevant to this whole RCon issue. So that's done, so we'll go ahead and run that again. And then as we can see here, went ahead and did open up this wiki page for 113. I'm going to go and close that though, because we already know and we already set this up. And that's going to go ahead and update a few things. While that's updating, I did want to go ahead and point out something here. So Omega Manager will automatically go ahead and set the RCon port to +3 of the game port, so 2305 by default with the new update, unless you already have it configured. And it should go ahead and create the firewall rules here. So in the end, I may not get prompted. We'll see when we start the server again if I get prompted for the firewall, but it may also just automatically add that 2305. So make sure if you're having issues, make sure that your router firewall is working on 2305 is open, and also that your internal Windows Server firewall is set up as well. And this is showing up as good, so we'll refresh that. We're going to go ahead and start this. And as we can see here, it found the config entry for 2305 for the RCon port, and it didn't prompt for the firewall, so it looks like Omega Manager took care of that. If you're not using Omega Manager though, just make sure you have that entered into your firewall, your Windows firewall, and your router firewall to allow 2305, or whichever port you decide to use for your RCon port. And just as a reminder, make sure you don't try to use 2302, 2303, 2304, just make sure it's at least +3 of the game port, or else you're going to have some issues. And now that we have that done, we should be good to go, but we can go ahead and do the test to make sure RCon's working now. So we're going to go ahead and look at CF Tools Cloud. And I'm going to go ahead and go over to modules here, and then connection details. This again has a link to the new information. So our game port here is 2302 still. Our RCon port has now changed to 2305. And host, IP and the password hasn't changed, so we'll go ahead and update that. And we'll make sure that shows us online. And if we go to our overview here, it does show us as online. And I actually, if I check here, I do have a email for it as well showing that it's been online. So it looks like everything's working. If you're using something like Dart or something like that, you'll want to make sure you just use 2305 instead. If you're using Beck, you should be able just to update it. So, and I don't actually have Beck set up for this server, but let's go ahead and check here real fast. So we're just going to go ahead and go to the GitHub page that I have for Beck here, and we'll go into the config.cfg. And then right here, it shows the port for the server, default 2302. If you change to the 2305, I believe it should work. I haven't actually done any testing with Beck though, because I personally don't use it anymore. But in case you are, there's some information. You can kind of test it out, see if that works for you. But no guarantees just because I haven't actually tested that yet. And that should be about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment on the video, or if you can join my Discord server, which is always in the video description. Joining the Discord allows you to DM me, and there's also that general support channel that a bunch of other people like to jump in and help sometimes. And if you have any video suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. And other than that, have a good one.